Alright, today in class we learned about graphing linear equations. So our objectives today are to graph linear equations using slope and intercept, or just the intercepts. Before we actually start graphing, we're going to determine if a given point is a solution to the given equation. So we know that in an ordered pair this x represents 1 and the y is 2. So you're going to take those values and substitute them into the equation. 4 times 1 plus 2 times 2. If you remember, we did this last unit. And we're going to solve that. So 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 4 is 8 equals 8. Because this is a true statement, then this is a solution to the equation. And what that means is that this point, 1, 2, lies on this line for x plus 2y equals 8. So we're going to say yes, it's a solution. Okay, we do the same things on B. You're going to go into this equation, replace the y with 7, replace the x with -1, and then simplify that. 7 equals 3 times -1 is -3 minus 4, and we end with 7 equals -7. Because this is not a true statement, that means that this point is not on the line, and we say no, it is not a solution. Okay, slope is defined as a rate of change. We have 4 different kinds of slope. We have a slope that's positive. We have a slope that's negative. We have a zero slope, and this is what all the lines will look like if you were to graph them. And we have what's known as an undefined slope. On an undefined slope, you're going to get something like 4 divided by 0, and we know we can't divide by 0, so we say it's undefined. On a zero slope, you'll get something like 0 divided by 4, and 0 divided by 4 is 0, which is why we call that a zero slope. Now, if you remember, very simply, slope is defined as a rise over run. But I like to give you some formulas in case you're given 2 points on the line. The first one looks like this. y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, and the second one just reverses the order, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, I don't expect you to memorize both of these, I only expect you to memorize one and use it. They both find slope. One just starts with the ordered pair y1 x1, and the other one starts with the ordered pair y2 x2. So just pick one of them, memorize it, and use it. So here I've given you 2 points that lie on a line, and I'm asking you to find the slope of this line. To do this, we're going to apply that formula, and if this helps, go ahead and do it. We'll label this as x1, y1, x2, y2, and we'll find slope. If you choose the y1 formula, you'll start with -2 minus a -5. All over the x1, 4, minus the x2, 3. On the top, when you have two negatives together, don't forget, that becomes a positive. A negative times a negative becomes a positive. So you get -2 plus 5, which is 3, over 4 minus 3, which is 1. Now you can either leave this as a fraction, which I like, or you can write it as 3. So we'll do the same thing on B. And this time I'm going to label this x1, y1, x2, y2, and I'll start with y2. So here I start with 9 minus y1, 5, over x2, 2, minus x1, 0. And then we just simplify that. 9 minus 5 is 4, 2 minus 0 is 2, and then this also can be reduced. 4 divided by 2 can be reduced to 2 over 1. Now, again, you can leave that as a fraction, which I would encourage, or you can write it as simply 2. The equation for slope-intercept is y equals mx plus b. There's 2 values that are important to this. The first one is m, it represents your slope, and the second one is b, it represents your y-intercept, and that's where it crosses the y-axis. And that's what this should say. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. I don't know why that didn't come up. Okay, so here is our first example. We're going to graph using, and this is important when you read your homework, using the slope and the y-intercept, so read your directions carefully. This is already in slope-intercept form, so all we have to do is pick out those values. The slope is the value that's next to x, so it's 2, and we like to write it as a fraction, 2 over 1. The y-intercept is this value at the end, so it's -3. And what that means is that we'll go on our y-axis, down 3, and put a point there. From this point, we will apply the slope, which tells us to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Or you could go down 2, back 1, and you'll get this line. Okay, our second one of these, if you notice, it's not in slope-intercept. Slope-intercept has y by itself. So the first thing that you're going to do to get y by itself is divide by 2, and we will divide each piece by 2. These 2's divide out, and you get y equals -3 over 2x plus 2. And from there you can identify slope. It's -3 over 2. The y-intercept is 2. Those two pieces we use to graph, and we start with the y-intercept, which says we go up 2, and then we'll apply that slope. It says down 3, 1, 2, 3, over +2. Or we could go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then apply that negative to the 2 and go back 2. And then there's your line. Now, I did not show you this, and I want to show it down here below. If you're given an equation that says something like 4x minus 3y equals 2, and it asks you to solve for, or to graph using the slope and the intercept, you will have to solve for y. To do this, you'll subtract 4x first, and these will subtract out. You get -3y equals, and I always put my x first, -4x plus 2, and then you'll divide by -3 to isolate that y. And that will leave you with the equation y equals -4/3 x plus a negative, or just -2/3. And from there you can pick out your slope and intercept to graph. Okay, standard form is the other form that we're going to use. If it is an ax plus by equals c, we're going to use this to graph using the intercepts. This is, if it's in standard form, the intercepts are really easy to use. Okay, so this says graph. Again, make sure you read those directions. Graph each linear equation using the intercept. So I'm asking you to identify those, not put it in slope-intercept. So to do this, we first say we're looking for the x-intercept. The x-intercept is when y is 0. And we go into this equation given and replace the y with 0 and solve it for x. If you're looking for the x-intercept, x is in the equation. This 2 times 0 becomes 0, so we're going to cross it out, it goes away, and we're left with 3x equals 6. From here, divide by 3 to both sides, and you're left with x equals 2, and it gives us an ordered pair at 2, 0. And we can go graph that. That just says we go over 2, up 0. Now, we need 2 points to graph a line, so we're going to still have to go back and do some work and find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the opposite. This is when x equals 0. So we go into that same equation, replace the x with 0, and solve it for y. This 3 times 0 becomes 0, so we can just eliminate that. And you're left with 2y equals 6. From here, divide by 2 to get the y alone, and y equals 3. You have an ordered pair at 0, 3, and we'll go graph that. So we go over 0, up 3, and you need 2 points to draw a line. And there you go. From here, if I asked you to, you could identify the slope. start at one point, say this one, and go up 1, 2, 3, and back 2. So our slope, if I asked you to identify it, would be up 3, back 2. Or we could reverse that negative and say it's down 3 over positive 2. Okay, here we're doing the same steps, just the equation's different. So we'll start with the x-intercept. This is when y equals 0. So again, replace that y with 0 in our equation. And this part will eliminate, and you're left with 4x equals 4. From here, divide both sides by 4, and you're left with x equals 1. This also gives you an ordered pair at 1 when y is 0. We go over to graph that, and that says we go over 1, up 0. Okay, again, you need 2 points to graph a line. So we're going to go back here and find the y-intercept. The y-intercept is when x is 0. So into the equation we go. 4 times 0, we're replacing the x with 0, minus 2y equals 4. So right here, these eliminate themselves, and you're left with negative 2y equals 4. Don't forget to carry that sign with that 2. Just because the 4 times 0 becomes 0 does not mean that that sign disappears. Divide now by both sides, or both sides by negative 2. Those negative 2's divide out on the left side, and y equals negative 2. And we have an ordered pair at 0, negative 2. So this tells me that I go over 0, down 2. I need 2 points to graph a line, and there's my line. Once again, if I did ask you to find the slope, I'm not on your homework, but you could. The slope would then start at one point and go to the next. You have to rise 2 and go over 1. And that would be the slope if you were asked to find it. Okay, here's your assignment, graphing linear equations. Good luck, and enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday.